What makes a string comfortable? This is of course very personal and subjective, but let me offer a simple framework to help with this. We can then use it to evaluate this, Solinco's X Natural, a multifilament that in my opinion is worth a try. Comfort for me comes down to two things: softness or lack of stiffness, and mutedness. There's actually a third sneaky factor, which is tension, but let's hold that thought for a bit. Softness is really just a proxy for how much a string stretches when there is a force applied to it. As a rule of thumb, the more the string stretches, the more comfortable it is. Mutedness is just a proxy for how much vibrations come through into your arm. As a rule of thumb, the less vibration a string provides, the more comfortable it is. Rackets, of course, play a part, but I'm assuming that factor stays constant, so the only perceived differences are because of a string. For most people, there's a nice balance where both these attributes come together to form their ideal playability. This, of course, varies from person to person. So, for example, a friend that I regularly play with likes 0 vibrations and really stiff strings, so his happy medium is RPM Blast, which is like a 9 out of 10 on the mutedness scale and a 2 out of 10 on the softness scale. My ideal balance is lots of vibrations and soft strings, which is the exact opposite of my friend. So my balance is like a 3 out of 10 on the mutedness scale and an 8 out of 10 on the softness scale. We are all different, so part of the challenge in finding your ideal string setup is figuring out what your particular flavor of comfort looks like. So how does X Natural rate when you think about it in this framework, especially given the fact that the first thing it advertises is maximum comfort? Well, I would give softness a 7 out of 10 and the mutedness an 8 out of 10. This definitely feels like a middle of the road multi from a softness point of view, and it's only slightly softer than some of the most popular multifilaments out there like Tecnifibre's X1 Biphase or the Energy, but this definitely gives you a plush ride. The best thing about this kind of plushness is that it's not trampoliny, it's more like a memory foam mattress. And I think there's a reason for that, because the main benefit you get out of this kind of a plush ride is shock absorption. That is a good segue to talk about its mutedness, because it has the same kind of mutedness that Diadem Evolution has. I'll leave that video down in the description below, and I highly recommend you watch this because I think I did a fairly good job of describing that kind of mutedness. It's like going about your day with AirPods in your ears with the noise cancellation turned on. Although I should say that this is definitely not as muted as Diadem Evolution was. That string was like a 10 out of 10 on the mutedness scale for me. I'm sure there's many of you out there that would love this balance of high softness and high mutedness, but this did not work for me because, as I've said before, my ideal balance is like a 3 out of 10 on the mutedness scale and like an 8 out of 10 on the softness scale. Let me explain. I hit with a medium amount of topspin, and I have an all-court style of play, so I frequently go between hitting flat shots, slices, and topspin shots. Playing like this requires you to vary 3 things a lot: your swing speed, your swing style, and your stroke length. Because the string is so soft and muted, I struggle to get enough feedback to find a nice balance between these 3 things for any kind of shot. I also think that, in fairness, I should tell you that I did eventually get used to this string. I never gelled with it, but I could play with it. For me, it's a potent reminder that our bodies are incredibly adaptive. So I wouldn't let this hinder you from giving this string a try if you don't find the idea of this particular brand of softness and mutedness not too appealing. I think I could have played better with this string if it was just strung a little bit tighter. So I would keep that in mind if you decide to give the string a try. That is a good way to bring up the sneaky third factor in comfort: tension. This really is just a way for you to dial up or down primarily how soft your string feels. And because dialing in the tension is so individual, I'm setting that discussion aside and leaving that bit up to you. What makes this the X factor is that as your string loses tension, it may or may not change its character. Which brings me to why I actually cut these out: tension loss. I usually play at lower tensions anyway, and I strung this at 40 pounds. But after about 4 hours of play, the tension had dropped to around 22 pounds. And as much as I love low tensions, that is just too low for me. From the limited amount of information I've been able to find online, this seems to be normal, but I wanted to give you guys some hard numbers so you had a rough idea of what to expect if you decided to try this. The other thing that this string advertises is good spin, and that is 100% true. I'm not sure if the camera picks this up, but this thing has a plastic silicone outer coating, which generally makes it feel like a polyester. And when I was stringing with this, I genuinely forgot for a little bit that this was a multifilament. And this coating definitely helps the string slide. There's no question about it. But as is with everything in life, expectations are the thief of joy, which brings me to this diamond rough texture. In X Natural's case, this texture causes the mains to get hung up on the crosses, and the strings don't snap back as much as they would have if perhaps this diamond rough texture wasn't there. So even though the spin was higher than average, I don't think it was as much or as high as it could have been. I think it would have been fantastic to have a non-textured or a round version of the string, because that would have made for an excellent cross. So yeah, that is X Natural for you. A muted and pretty soft multifilament that has relatively decent spin for what it is. Not for me, unfortunately, but definitely unique enough to warrant a try if you're into multifilaments. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. See you in the next one. As I've said before, my ideal balance is